Team member Mark Sheeran here. Listen, everybody's been asking why we switched to the Skinner Peep sights this year. And there's a whole bunch of reasons. First of all, the owner of Skinner Sights, Andy Larson, was willing to collaborate with us to build the best ghost sight for tracking on the market. And he took our input and really put it into practice. And the aperture, the ghost ring itself is thinner, so it allows more light in. It's all steel construction. It's got a lifetime warranty, and it's also a very elegant sight. So there are some other features as well. The ghost sight itself is dovetailed into the body of the sight, which makes it really, really sturdy, and it can't fall out of adjustment. And between that and the fact that it's all steel, and the Peep sight is optimized for the tracker and the still hunter, it's an amazing sight. So you can go on to bigwoodsbucks.com and get your BWB Tracker Series Peep sight today. All right, good luck on the hunt.
This is the Big Woods Bucks Podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine Master Guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks Podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood. Once again, down here at Lake Parlin Lodge, looking out at the wind and the sun with Joe Cruzy.
Hello.
And good Lee again.
Good morning.
And we got a special guest today, my honey, my wife of, I don't know how many years, a lot. And we wanted to have Deb on here to tell some old stories about probably cooking and running the lodge and all that for all them years, and how she was dragging me up here and all that stuff to enjoy life in the North Woods. Yeah. So
I think it's the opposite.
Welcome, honey.
Hi.
Deb. Deb. I call her honey, but my real name's Deb.
Deb.
I don't call her that very often.
Debbie. Deborah.
Yeah.
Honey.
Depends how you feel about her is what you call her.
I usually hear, hey.
That's good training.
Yeah. I did actually at one time have her trained pretty good, you know. If I told her to do something, she'd jump right up and do it. But somewhere along the line that changed. I don't know what year that was, but
Probably right off the bat.
Probably. My sisters used to always get to her and say, "You going to let him treat her like that? Treat you like that?" I'm like what?
Yeah.
I always thought it was funny. You told me how when you brought Deb up here, she did the same thing my wife did, where we decided to start our guide business. We brought our wives up. We were all excited and say, "What do you think?" And they both kind of like cried and said, "Oh my God."
I got one better for you. When he came home while he was lobstering, and I was in my hometown where I was born. Had my family right nearby. Had all my nieces and nephews and my mother and my father.
Didn't have to work.
I didn't have to work. I drove a sports car. He came home and he says, "You're gonna sell your sports car."
She had a Z28.
Yeah, you're gonna sell all your dresses and your high heels because you're not gonna need them anymore. And that's what he said. And we're moving north. Huh? Now, and I had in my mind that he was going to fish for 10 years and we were going to save a lot of money. And so that we would have cash to start a lodge. So, no, he decided to cut it off a couple of years and said, "I'm not going to pay all that money to the government." So he says, "We're just going to go up and just wing it.
Yeah, wing it.
So I go out on our son's swing set about 10 o'clock that night and bawled my eyes out. I said, "God, why? Why me?"
Well, the way that I heard it was the first time that you saw your old place where you built the lodge was there was like an old rotted out truck down there and a bunch of piled of rotten logs, and you looked at it and immediately you could see what it was going to look like.
Yeah. Oh, he had the vision. I didn't have the vision because it wasn't my dream. My dream was at that time to follow my husband. So it was.
So what was your dream?
I had to make it my dream.
Yeah.
It was tough.
That old saying's true. Behind every good man is a better woman, right?
Yeah. I found that land. I was up. I had my dog Jimmy, my old dog Jimmy, and I'd gone up fishing. It started pouring that morning. I said, well, I'm going to get out of here. And it was in May. And I was headed out of town, and I said, I never been on that Addian Road before. I said, I'd always saw the lake from the scenic overlook, you know. So I drove down. I was going to drive down, see what it looked like down the road. And I got halfway down, and I see this piece of land for sale. And we've been looking for land for quite a few years. And we actually looked different parts of the state, but I always fell back to the Jackman area because I'd been coming here since I was a teenager and been deer hunting there quite a bit. So I was learned the area pretty good. But anyways, is this piece of land there for sale? I said, boy, that's pretty good. And it's got power right up here, the road. And I said, I wonder how many acres that was. I don't think it said on the thing. So I ran downtown to the real estate office there, and there was 2 lots there. One was in front, one was up in the back, but they were 25-acre lots. And I said,
By the way, I wasn't with him.
no, just me and Jimmy. So the guy showed me the thing, and I went up and I walked the lines, and geez, a nice piece of woods up back, you know, and there was nothing else there, you know, up in the back, and there was only one house beyond it on the whole road, you know, and it was a dirt road. It was turned into dirt there, gravel. So I went down and I asked the guy, went back to the real estate guy. I said, how long has that been on the market? He said, just came on last week. I go, oh. I said, I think they wanted, I think it was $29,000 for 25 acres. I'm like, boy, that seems kind of high.
Yeah, those were the days.
Yeah, that was back in
pre-COVID.
That was 1988. And I said, well, I'm going to put an offer on it. I said, how much less do you think I would put on that? And he goes, you do what you want, but he said, I don't think it's going to last very long. And I go, yeah, you're probably right. So I just gave him a full offer on it. I didn't want to lose it, you know. I mean, we've been looking so long. So I gave him a few bucks down or whatever and made out a contract, went home and told her. And she goes, how could you do that without me looking at it? I said, might be gone by next weekend. So I said, next weekend we're going to take a ride up.
Oh, I was so
We'll take
excited.
a look at it. We drive up there. She looks at it. There was a whole row of rotten pulp logs there, about 4 feet high, you know, and 30 feet long. There was an old pulp truck rotted in.
Cars.
And 2 vehicles with bushes growing up. The whole front, it was an old wood yard there. And if anybody's listening that knows people up here, it was Casey McIntyre that owned it, and that would explain a lot to people. But she started crying.
You thought you were going to be making the movie Dead River Rough Cut, didn't you, Deb?
Yes. Yeah. Well, we kind of skipped over a little bit because when he first got out of the Marine Corps, he brought me up. Came fishing. Now, this is early May, you know, up here in early May. It's most of the time. Sometimes it's pretty nice. The leaves are out and it looks nice, but this was still snowy. The snow and the ice had just gone out. We're coming into town now, and there's no leaves out. There's no green grass, and there's snow, dirty snow, banks everywhere. And he says, someday, honey, we're going to live up here. And then I knew, what the hell have I gotten myself into?
Dreams do come true.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I mean, I'm not a city girl by any means, but I do like the country, and I like the privacy, and it is beautiful up here for sure.
When my dad came into Jackman in the late, it would have been 69 or 70, he came on a scouting mission first and then went home and packed everything up and told my mom they found a place, and they were driving up, and my uncle and aunt were part of it. They all came together, and in my mom's mind, she had, the vision of a little quaint
town.
Yeah.
town, and
With lots of shopping.
And Jackman was bustling back then. I mean, it
Oh,
was
yeah.
a working town.
Yeah.
The woods and everything, and they ended up staying here for the rest of their lives. But
Yeah.
So she sort of felt the same way. Like, where's all the shops? Or
yeah, well, that's what anyone, if you're going to get drug off somewhere, you think. That's
where's
what
the
it's
hair
gonna be.
salon?
Yeah. But it ended up working out.
Yeah. Did for us, too.
Yeah, it did for us. I think Hal's mentioned it before on the podcast, but this is yours. I won't go into it too much, Deb, but Hal always tells me that I did everything just like him just 10 years later because he's 10 years older, and my wife probably had about the same, ideas as you did, is what have I got myself into? I know that our biggest issue was I bought our place because it was a beautiful piece of land, but it was an old farmhouse, and I just built her a new house to move into. I was moving her out of a new house that was all beautiful into an old farmhouse, and the woman that lived there had 10 dogs. There was so much dog hair in there, you could have built mattresses out of it.
Sounds comfortable.
Yeah.
It was. I got my mother and some friends to come over and help her clean it, but yeah, we just...
No, I meant the dog hair mattress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just 10 years behind. My wife, it's been right through the same thing like you did.
Yep. And in when we first came up and we were starting to build, we had purchased, I don't know, I think for $500, a 1960, was it 68, 69?
That was our hunting camp. Our 60
And now this
something.
wasn't, this was actually a mobile home. It wasn't a camper trailer. It was
one of the
mobile home.
early models.
8 feet wide.
30,
Yeah.
I think it was 8 by 32 or something, mobile home. And Elmer, I remember that was the brand name. It was made in the 60s.
Oh, I bet that thing hauled. I bet that thing was heavy.
I hauled that up there from Harpswell with my pickup, the short bed with a drop hitch on it, a homemade drop hitch.
Oh, yeah.
Must have been all she wanted.
Couldn't go, well, it hauled all right, but it was so heavy, like that half-ton pickup. I mean, I couldn't go over 45 on the highway. She'd get swaying, But we stayed in that all that winter. We used it. I'd left it down the campground. Then we moved it up there when we bought the land. And we stayed in that all winter. That was fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You ran the heater and you had to basically strip because it'd be about 90 in there.
Had one of them propane wall heaters
Yeah.
in there.
Or you just shut it off and you stuck to the wall because of the frost out. One day we put our son to bed and in a sleeping bag with his snowmobile suit on. That's how cold it was in the back room. And he literally froze to the wall.
Yeah, you
Froze
because it had
to the wall.
we only had like an inch and a half insulate. The walls were an inch and a half thick, and the windows were single pane windows. So there was
always
an
ice.
inch or two of ice on all the windows inside all the time because of propane and the moisture.
And
stuff.
then because we get there, you turn on the heat and it would be flies, like a million trillion flies. And we'd go to sleep at night, and then the mice would literally run over the top of the blanket to the point where I just said, "Frig it."
So it was kind of
Like I had no choice.
it was like that old Sammy Kershaw song. He made you the queen of his double wide trailer.
Yeah. I had to use 100 pounds of propane over the weekend just to stay warm in that thing. Yeah, 100-pounder would go the weekend. And we'd come up just ice fishing and stuff. I was still lobstering. And then we made the plans to build the first cabin the next spring. And so in the spring we bought the land in 88. Spring of 99, we went up.
89.
89. We went up and we built the first cabin. It was a duplex in 19 days. We had it pretty much done except the plumbing and the wiring was all run. And I had a guy from Skowhegan that was an electrician and a plumber go up, stayed a couple of days and finish that up. But it was all pretty much ready to go in 19 days. It was 3 of us.
That's the closest to Amish you've ever been, huh?
That's right.
19 days and built your house.
I look back on some of the stuff I used to do, and I go, how could I possibly do that,
Boy, that neighborhood's changed a lot, huh?
Oh.
Man, has that gotten built up.
Totally different.
That's why we had to get out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real neighborhood now. We used to, in the wintertime, we used to look down the driveway if you heard a vehicle coming in the
We'd like,
winter.
who's coming up the road?
Brad was the only one that
Yeah.
lived beyond us. There was nothing else there, so it was strange.
Was it you were the only house
Yes.
at that time on
Up there, yeah. There was them first few at the beginning where it was paved. There
Yep.
was
Dale
1,
and
2, 3, Dale. And even Francis wasn't there when we moved up.
Okay.
He was the one just off the pavement. But Dale and then the, I can't remember the old town manager's name. She sold it to the New Jersey people. And then Brucey bought the other one and then the old one across the street. And that's the only thing that was there. And then Brad lived out beyond. And that was it. And so anyways, it was pretty wild up there. Behind the house back then, I could walk behind the house all the way to the mining road. There was nothing. From there to the lake to the mining road and all of that was
I hunted there.
nothing.
I was going to say, when you guys first started your business up there, I can remember seeing, like, in your first book, some of your hunters shot their deer, like, right up in behind your lodge.
Yeah, had a guy shoot one 225 up there. He hit it up back, and then he chased it down and killed it. Oh, geez, I think he probably chased it a mile. When they were getting it out, one of the other guys, they had to go over the mining road to get it. That's how they got it out. He showed me, he said, I killed a buck. He said, and I don't know where the heck I was because he never crossed even a tote road all the way through there. I said, well, show me on the map. And he showed me where he went. I go, yeah. I said, it was over close. That's how far it went. It was like over by the mining road. And they went in there and they were getting it out. And one of his buddies said, geez, looks like pretty good buck sign around here. And he threw a tree stand up there I think that same day, went in there the next morning, shot another one 225.
no kidding.
Yeah, both 8-pointers, yeah.
One of them was that one that's in your book that had the
Heavy.
looked like Coke cans coming out of his head. Boy, that was thick.
It was like 22 inches inside, but it was heavy with short points. I don't think the points were over 5 or 6 inches long, any of them. And it still made the Antler Club. I think it scored like 142 or something.
Yeah,
Just
thick,
massive thing.
thick.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
country up in there. I've been up in there with your coyote hunting. That's pretty up in there.
Pretty cut off now.
I was going to say it's been cut pretty hard.
Yeah. Roads in there now, but
Well, I shot my second biggest deer right there.
yeah.
Oh, up in behind there.
Yeah, tell
No.
that story, honey.
Yeah, well, I think we were still living in the cabin. It was before we were living up in the house. And
I had
you had clients.
Yeah, I had some-
you had two guys. And I got up and did breakfast for them, and they went hunting. And so, fresh snow. And he said, beautiful. Just quit snowing with daylight. Perfect. And they were all excited and everything got going. And so I said, I cleaned up breakfast and I put turkey in the oven and got a few things ready for supper. And then I said, I'm going to go out for a little bit. And I went across the street, picked up a buck track, probably about 20 minutes later. And it was fresh. It was a fresh track and no snow in it. And I'm like, okay, don't think I'm that far away from him. So I tracked that buck. I probably left about 7. And I shot that buck at about 11. And so I tracked him down through the cut, across the lake over. You can oversee the lake. Have you been down the Addian Road there? Yeah. It's kind of grown up now. Before it was all open. It was like a pretty open cut. And I tracked that buck through that open cut. It was an older cut. And I knew I was getting close because his poop was warm. And it was probably about 30 degrees and it was very windy. So and I had the wind in my favor. And he was walking into the wind, which was perfect for me. And then he was walking in some pretty thick stuff to the point where I had to crawl. I almost left it. I had to get down on my hands and knees with my rifle and crawl through some really, really thick stuff. And I'm like, nope, I got to be close. I know I'm close. I'm going to keep going. And, I know I'm also looking at the clock, too, because I still have to cook dinner for clients. And so I said, I'm going to stay on a little bit longer. So I get in there, and it is thick. You can't see 10 feet. And it's so thick in there. And I look down at the track. All of a sudden, his track veers. He'd been going in a pretty straight line. And then all of a sudden, this track went like way sharp to my left, and I knew exactly what he was going to do. He was going to circle. He was coming up. He must have known I was behind him, probably wanted to circle up behind me, or he was looking for a place to bed down. And so I'm like, I can't move. He's going to come up behind me. So I'm looking around for a tree to stand up against, and I'm looking for the most open area I could find, and it was really thick. So I backed myself up against a tree. I had my grunt call. I made just one grunt on my call, stuck it back inside my shirt, and I got ready. And I looked down my track because I knew he was going to come on my track. And he did. Came right up my track. And he had circled around, and I couldn't, because he was looking right at me, and I couldn't really move. So he kind of went to my left a little bit, and he kept circling around to my left. And as he's moving his head, I'm moving my gun into position. And he was a little bit to kind of back of me to my left, which is good because I'm right-handed. And I swung my gun up slowly. I got it up into position. And then by this time, all I can see is just little patches of him. I was like, I think that's the shoulder there. So I shot through a hole, literally. I mean, a hole. It was so thick. And he disappeared. So I walk over there, and he's dead, laying there dead. And I broke his back. Must have hit lung or whatever. But
now, I know Hal
dead.
told me at one time you had a 6mm. Did you shoot him with that 6mm?
No, this was a 30-06.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I was tickled to death. I mean, oh my gosh, it was an 8-pointer. And it wasn't the biggest deer I'd shot, but, he was still like my first tracking job.
Nice.
My first on my own. Now, I had been with Hal, but it was my first on my own, totally picked up the track, tracked it myself. Now,
good teacher, huh?
very good teacher. And I'm like, okay, now I got to get it out. I got it out. And now, these women that say that they are as strong as a man, there might be a few, but I'm telling you, women are built different. And we don't have the upper body strength to pull, so I pulled using my lower body strength. So I pulled backwards. And I had a little bit of a hill to go up, so I was pulling uphill, and I got him out to the road and down into the ditch. And because I picked up the track at the camp, so I had to go get my vehicle. And I'm like, there's no way I can get this buck into a vehicle. There's no way. So I went into town, went to the local bakery, and got somebody to help me.
Nice.
And got it back up, got it on the pole, hung it up, and I got my shower, and I started dinner. I had pies ready, and I had the potatoes and squash, and the whole thing's to go with a turkey. And the guys get home at dark. I walk in the camp. Hal says, "Who's deer on the pole?" Because we had clients there. "Who's deer on the pole?" I said, "Mine." He goes, "Who's deer on the pole?" I said, "Mine." Wow. He's like, "Come on. Whose buck is that on the pole?" And I said, "It's mine." "How many times do I have to tell you?" He goes, "Nice." And
I think the guys wanted me to cook the next day.
Yep.
They'd go with her.
Yeah, the guys were like, his clients were like they were like actually bowing to me, like, yes, she's the queen, and she's got supper on the table too, and so that was fun, and it was a good experience for me. For for about a week. I couldn't move. I was in good shape. I was running back then, so I was incredibly good shape. And even though when you're running, you obviously are using different muscles than you are dragging out a buck. The buck weighed 189 pounds.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. So
Nice.
it was a nice experience and something I'm very proud of. Yep.
Yeah.
Did you hunt much after that, or did you get a bug for it? Or
Well, see, this is the beginning of Cedar Ridge running the lodge. And I was chief cook and bottle washer. I did everything, including lawns. I did everything.
That's actually
I did
probably when it was-
all the lawns. I did all the cooking. I did all the cleaning of all the cabins. So in between working 16 hours a day, it's really hard to find time to go hunting. I did do a little bit after that, but we had moved up into the house the next year and had more people because we had more cabins, and we were probably up at that point, we're probably feeding 10, 3 meals a day. I mean, that's, their morning breakfast and their packed lunch and their suppers, and because we had bear season too, bear and moose, and we had bird hunters, and so I didn't get to go hunting very much, and that's the way he put me to work, and
Yeah.
I went to work.
Paid her well, too.
we built a good business, but I didn't get to go deer hunting very much anymore, and which was a little bit, it was a little sad, but
You must have been some happy, though, when you got out of the duplex and he built the new log cabin where you guys live. That was a nice cabin.
It took a couple of years to get happy. We literally worked ourselves to death to build that. We did it ourselves, and amongst having a business to run, we were working about 16-hour days to try to get in there. So I was exhausted, and so it's really hard to be happy, with what you're doing when you're working so hard. My God, and we were young too. We were in our mid-30s, so it was quite a feat. That was almost a 4,000 square foot lodge, and we built it. We peeled the logs ourselves, and built it right from scratch, and so.
Those were nice cedar logs. Didn't you say you got those?
Yeah.
You got those logs from down my way, didn't you?
Yes. Yep.
No, I think they come from Corinth
Corinna.
over there.
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
East Corinth, I
Yeah.
think. Most of them. Then some of them I got actually were cut up on burnt jacket. I got a wheeler load from Reggie, and I think some of them went into the garage and some in the house.
Everything was cedar, though, right? All
Yeah.
your logs were cedar?
Except the rafters,
were
and the
spruce,
floor
yeah.
timbers. They're round. I actually went over the mill, and Charlie let me get them out of the pile over there, cut the length I wanted, and pulled them out of the piles over at the lumber mill.
Nice.
And I had 2 guys working to put that place up. We built that was 92. We actually built the next cabin. We had built the duplex, the original one, and then we built in 91. We built the we call it the Moose Wallow, the 3-bedroom place. That's where we stayed till we got into the lodge, and then the next spring we started building that the next one up, the Bear's Den. We built that one and put built the lodge too. So we got going with that, and then I ran into bear season, having a bear bait, and so I had a friend of mine that was a carpenter help me with the cabins, and then I got a helper for him, and they'd work. I'd tell him what to do because he'd never built a log place either, so I'd just tell him how I wanted stuff, and then when I'd get in from baiting, I'd jump up there and work till we had to go put hunters out, and then we got it. I remember we were shingling the roof the week before deer season.
In a snowstorm.
We had a push broom up there pushing the snow off the roof to find the tabs on the shingles, to shingle that roof, and that's how we finished up.
That was a tall building, too. That was, 36 feet, I think, at the peak?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
pretty
tall.
high up to the top there, and then we we got that, but we never. I had put this. They were sawed flat. And I'd put like sill seal, but it was pool liner foam. I got 1/4 inch and cut it with a chainsaw on the roll. But we never got it chinked either. So there was some drafts in there. We liked to froze to death that first winter. Well, actually, that winter we didn't stay there. We got it in, and I had one of them barrel stoves, the one with the 2 barrels on top, like a heat exchanger, and I heated it just enough to keep it warm inside, because the water came in there and the well and stuff. And
it was the next year we froze to death.
The next year, yeah.
It was the coldest winter I've ever seen.
Yeah. So the next spring we started inside. It was just me, really, and I started inside finishing stuff, and then I'd get up at daylight, head on up, come down and get breakfast, and go back up. Then she'd bring lunch up, and I'd work till supper time, and then I'd go after supper and work till dark, all that next spring. And then I had to, again, once we get into bear baiting and stuff. And I think we moved in just before bear season, right?
Literally. We moved in. It was Gary's birthday, remember? His birthday is August 23rd.
Yeah.
And bear season was 2 days later.
That's when we moved in, and it wasn't finished. I didn't have the railings up there. And
we had clients. And we had bear clients coming in.
Yeah, we had a bunch of bear clients, and that's how we...
In those early days, how many baits were you running?
Well, they just kind of moved up. I started out with...
I think you had 30.
I had Ballmouth,
very
Sandy
beginning.
Bay. I think probably at the beginning I had 30, 30, maybe 40 baits, 30, 40 baits. And it was just 2 of us then, and we'd take... In the beginning, I only took 6 a week, and the numbers didn't work for that, so I started taking 10, and I had enough. And I didn't really, it took a while to build that clientele up. I didn't have it wasn't like all of a sudden, everything was all booked up, I might have 10 hunters one week and 5 the next, and that's how we kind of went along. And then when we got to where we was getting 10 hunters a week, and then guy come up and did a TV show there, and that made a big difference, because back then that's what everything was. It wasn't the stuff on the internet.
Yeah,
and
there was
stuff.
no internet. There was no computer. No.
And I remember when I still got copies of that hunt. I should give you guys a copy of it. I found some the other day on a DVD disc, and that show aired that weekend. And it usually it probably aired like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at different times on I don't know if it was a Sportsman channel or one of them channels, and I think we probably had 100 phone calls that weekend.
Wow.
I mean, I couldn't even believe it. So I said, I got to get some more baits. So I ended up getting more bear baits, and I took on another guide. So we had 3 of us guiding, and then I took 15 a week. And that's where I stayed. I never went beyond that. And I ended up I just kept talking to the foresters and kind of gathering up slowly some. And then, but I was probably running 75 baits after that, and then when we did the remote hunt, we did another 20 there, so 95 baits for a few years.
Ooh, that's a lot of bait.
Believe me, once we got going like that, and I had the other 2 guys guiding, well, then I had Mikey guiding the remote hunt at the beginning, but all I had the time to do was get the bait. Every week I'd get different things for bait. I had my donuts, but I'd get my other stuff and fix trucks, because it was always trucks. we started out with them.
Every day. I
used to buy a junk Toyota for $500 or something and
run it till she quit.
Run it, yeah. Well, yeah. I used to be a master at fixing the frames on them things. I'd jack up a leaf spring underneath the brake, and I'd weld it along the frame, and then it would break next to the spring, but it wouldn't break there. I'd get fixing brake lines in the woods, peen them over, and go with one brake or 2 wheels with a brake on it.
How about the day you and Mike were out baiting, and you lost the brakes in the Toyota?
I've told that story on here, coming
you?
down off the mountain. Yeah.
Oh
yeah, there was always something, but
always broke.
Hey, Hal here. I want to talk a little bit about our partnership with OnX Hunt. I've been using it for a while now, and if anybody knows me, they know I'm not a very techie person, but the OnX app is really, it's a real time saver. I remember the days when we poured over topo maps everywhere we was going to go and stuff, and I don't do that quite as much anymore. Where it's really helped me is scouting, whether it's deer scouting, a moose, or even turkey hunting in the spring, which I do. It really helps out. I don't have to spend as much time running around the truck burning up the gas. I'm just basically using my OnX. Got it on my phone. Don't even carry a GPS anymore. So I just download the areas where I'm going to be hunting, whether it's up north moose hunting, and I use it mostly on the satellite imagery. I like to see the cuts and the clearings and the turkey hunting, the hidden fields and stuff. But everybody's using it now, from the game wardens to land surveyors, and just a great tool. And with our partnership with OnX, if you use a code BWB, you're going to receive 20% off on your first premium or elite memberships. And you just go to onxmaps.com/hunt. You'll be glad you did. Good luck on the trail.
Going back to the advertising, then I remember really the only place I saw stuff, aside from the hunting shows, was in the back of the Outdoor Life magazine.
Yeah,
There's
the little ads.
Yeah, we tried
and you
them.
do it by region,
Yeah, and they were like $300-400 for that one column,
a little tiny ad. Yeah,
and I never got anything off of them.
I remember you told me, because you'd already been in it for 10 years, but one of the first things that you told me that was good advice, you said, do yourself a favor. Don't flush your money down the toilet. Don't put one of those ads in Outdoor Life or Field and Stream, because it won't amount to anything.
Yeah. There was too much competition back then, I guess, and whatever. But I don't think I ever booked one. And not that I did it a lot, because, when we spent that kind of money, we didn't know what else to do.
Right.
So we kept like a presence in the main Sportsman and.
Well, the sportsman shows then obviously
the
were a lot
shows
bigger
were the
too.
biggest things.
Yeah.
But we didn't do many. We only did one.
Yeah.
And
the
then
Harrisburgs.
No, I never even did that.
Really?
No, we did one in Fort Washington, and that was outside of Philly.
Outside of Philly, yeah.
And we got a big contingency from there, and we did that about 5 years, maybe. About 5 years, and we never had to do another show because we had so much repeat business and word of mouth.
I thought in those days you were doing a lot of shows.
Couldn't afford to.
Yeah.
We did
they were
that.
so expensive.
That show worked out because I could stay at my cousin's in New Jersey, and we'd drive over to Philly for the day. It was 45 minutes. And then a couple other times we tried one in Long Island, Nassau Coliseum one year. I tried.
We did one in Massachusetts, in Connecticut.
Connecticut once, Mass once, and those never really amounted to a lot.
Didn't you tell me you did the Worcester show?
I did think I did that.
Yeah,
just
we did that once.
And none of them ever seemed to pan out like that one in Philly. That one we had guys would bring in all their friends the next year, and it was like old home week when we'd get down. But about 5 years, never did another show.
Yeah.
Never had to.
We had built a clientele by that point.
Yeah, it was word of mouth and repeat business. We probably ran 50% repeat business. Between the bear, the deer, everything we did, and then you get a bear hunter, then they'd put in for the moose per lottery. And
well, that's what I was going to ask: is how many times did that roll over? Or
that rolled into everything.
Yeah.
I had some of my deer hunters. The first time they came up snowmobiling. Then they turned into deer hunters, and then just everything, if they liked it. And it got where we had groups of guys that would come and could have cared less if they shot a bear or a deer. They came to eat. That's what they said. They loved Deb's food there. They go, we don't care if we kill anything here. We're just on a vacation, and we're going to have fun, and we know we're going to always eat good. And Deb always treated them all like family, and hugged them when they came in and did all that.
They became family. They were my family, really, because my family was a long ways away. And eventually, I learned to love what I was doing because I loved the people. And, it's so cute. Guys would say, will you marry me? They're married. I'm married. But would you marry me? Because that was the way I treated them. I treated them with respect. And like they were my brother. or sister, because I did have, we had a lot of women, and treated them like family, and that's the most important thing, and to feed them good. I mean, the bear hunting, or the deer hunting, all that stuff is a bonus. If you get something, that's a bonus. But it's the trip too. It's the memories you make with even the people they've never met each other, show up at the camp and they become friends. And today, some of these people are still friends today, and that was 30 years ago. And
they'd meet up.
Yeah.
They'd book their next. They'd make sure they got together, and if they wanted to switch a week for bear, they all did it. They all said, "Let's come this week." And then the wives would come with some of them, and they'd meet other wives there, so they'd all become friends. Mm-hmm. And then they'd do the same thing,
We, especially for bear season, we had the pool, so it was, anyway, pools and hot tubs, and it was still, in September, it's gorgeous. And so we, it was a good time for the wives to come, because they had a half a day spent with their husbands and family. And then the other half of the day, the guys get to go hunting. The gals hung out together down by the pool or sit outside or whatever. And I mean, it was a perfect kind of hunt, for the guys. And
then the gals would run down to Bishop's. They knew what time we'd be rolling in. They'd be all waiting for us to come in with bears, Yeah. And then the guys that had already got their bears, they'd go down too, and we'd meet up down there. And
because I didn't get to go down and meet down, because I'm the chef, so I was getting dinner ready, so I was cooking.
And we finally got to a point where we could hire some help.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she always had at least 2 gals there, huh?
Well, we got to the point where I had, at least 2 to 3 in the kitchen with me, but we were serving up to 30 people in that lodge. I mean, that's a lot. And it was a challenge, but it worked out good as long as we had the good help. That's, finding good help. Anybody that's been in business all knows, we all go through that struggle, and getting the good help, and just things would run smoothly. It would go pretty good. For bear season, we had, breakfast at a decent hour. It wasn't like at 5 o'clock in the morning. And then we went right from breakfast right into having the main meal. And the main reason why we do the main meal before bear season, because it's September, so the sun doesn't set until after 8 o'clock, and they don't get back until late. And sometimes, if they shoot, 3 or 4 bear, they have to get each one out and get it, and then they have to go to the tagging station. Some of the trips out are 45 minutes to get out of the woods. And then by the time they get back for supper, it's 10 o'clock at night. Nobody wants to eat a huge meal at 10 o'clock at night. So I always made fresh stews. We'd have homemade breads, different kinds of breads, and fresh stews for our evening meal. Something light with desserts, bars or cookies or whatever. So it worked out good.
Always going to the stand on a full stomach.
Oh, yes. Yeah. The guys would try not to fall asleep.
Half them guys and big guys would gain 10, 15 pounds in a week there.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think the one that gained the most, he was a big guy anyway, in 1 week of bear hunting, because you're just sitting in a stand, you're not exercising. And I think he did literally gain in 1 week 15 pounds.
Holy smoke.
I mean, that's a lot of weight to gain anyway, but in 1 week.
But they wouldn't push back from the table.
No.
That sounds funny, Deb, because Stephen told me that summer that he lived up there with you and Al, he liked to starve to death because you barely fed him.
Oh, my. I'm going to tell you, Lee, your son could put away more food, and I will tell you, Hal, when he was younger, could put away a lot of food. A lot of food. But Stephen took the cake.
Yeah.
He took the cake. I have never seen anybody mound their plate at 4 inches deep and then go back and do another plate 4 inches deep for lunch.
I couldn't understand it because he was, I think when he went in the Marine Corps, he might have weighed 155 pounds maybe. It wasn't like he was that big, but he had a good metabolism because, he ate from the time he got up to the time he went to bed. And, but my old man said I was like that when I was younger, too, because I was a lot bigger than Stephen. But, he had a good appetite. And I'm sure I've told Hal, and I'm sure I've told you, too, but one of the best blessings in my life was the fact that the year before Stephen left to go in the Marine Corps, when he lived with you guys, because Stephen had been, into all my remote camps, whether it was deer camp or moose camp, and he helped me build all my cabins. But the thing that worked out really good was when he helped Hal build the luxury cabin that summer, then he was able to take Hal's guide course, and he couldn't take his test until he turned 18 because he was only 17.
He was only 17.
So he had to wait until he turned 18, but that was good preparation for Stephen, not only to get his guide's license, but also, to go in the Marine Corps. I still think it's probably Hal's fault that he joined the Marine Corps. I don't know.
Yeah, talked him right into it.
He looked up to Hal, and I think that's I think that's
It's good. It's worked out good. It's one of those things that I learned from. I always tried to give my kids, direction and tell them what I thought, but Stephen, if it was something he wanted to do, if I knew that I couldn't talk him out of it, then I said, all right, we'll do whatever you want to do. And looking back now, it's been 13 or 14 years, but the Marine Corps' been great for him. I don't know if I told you guys, Stephen just graduated. He's got his business degree now. The Marine
he did
Corps
graduate.
page.
Oh,
nice.
good.
Last week was his last week.
Oh, that's great.
Finished all of his schooling, so the Marine Corps not only has been good for him in a lot of other ways, but it paid for his education. So, and he had a lot of my friends have been in the Marine Corps, and maybe that's why Stephen joined. But even though it wasn't my path for him, it's the one that he chose, and it's worked out well.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
that's right.
they got to choose their own path.
Yeah,
All our kids do, and it may not be what we want them to do, but as long as it works out for them.
Talked Stephen into it. Couldn't talk my son Gary into it. He went in the Army, but
yeah.
that's okay.
He's got his 20 years and he's retiring.
He's retiring this fall.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't.
What?
Hard to believe.
20 years.
It is hard to believe. I remember
Hard
when
to
he went in.
believe, yeah.
That's just about the time I got to know you guys. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So what was behind the choice of Army over Marines?
I think he talked to his friends and they were all scared of boot camp and stuff. I think that's what it was. It seemed to me when I talked to him, like,
his grandfather. I mean, your dad was in the Army.
Yeah, but
and so I think that played a part of it.
it might have, but I think it was more about he didn't dare to go in the Marine Corps because of his friends kind of made a big deal of it or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
so.
But it was a good path for him, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's done good at it.
He's still in Texas.
Yeah, yeah.
So then
Yep.
years went on, and when you finally decided that you were going to look to get out, was that?
We had been looking to get out for at least I was getting tired of working literally to the bone. I'm in my 50s. We're in our 50s at this point, and late 50s, and physically, my back, it was really going downhill. Physically, it got to the point where I was in pain every day. And when you're in pain every day, it's really hard to find joy in what you're doing. It really is. It's really hard. And so, God works things out always. And he knew what I needed. And somebody just said, would you sell? Yep, I would sell. So that's what happened. And we didn't put it on the market. It was a client. And we just said, God has his plan, and the door was open, and we took it. And I want to tell you, for 2 years, I didn't want to answer a phone. I didn't want to talk to people. And it's not that I don't like people. I really love people. I just, when you're working we lived in our office. We lived in our lodge. And when you got people there all the time, it can get really tough on a person's. You're sanity.
I had a guy one time. He sold a lot of sporting camps. He was in the real estate business, and he said the average turnover in sporting camps is 7 years.
Yeah.
Most people run them about 7 years, and that's
about all they can take.
The challenge, doing it right out of your home where you're actually living, like when you can't leave it, that would be challenging.
Yeah.
It is extraordinarily challenging.
11 o'clock at night, you get the phone ring, so you're startled when the phone rings.
Or how about I turned on a light for, I think one day I turned on the outside light I was looking for my cat, and it's midnight. And we had been in bed, but my cat needed to come in. So, and then next thing you know, I see somebody with a flashlight approaching my house, and I'm like, I'm in my night clothes. I'm like, excuse me, and we saw the light on, so we wanted to come up and get a movie. So we had DVDs available.
Yeah, back then it was DVDs.
And I'm like, excuse me, but we're closed. It was all hours. It was all hours. To the people that are staying there, you're open all the time. But, they don't forget that,
I think
this was our home.
Yeah.
I get a phone call at 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, I'm interested in a bear hunt. I'd be like, why don't you call back tomorrow? They didn't know. They forget.
Oh, yeah. We get those calls constantly. Yeah. People call at midnight to make a reservation, 11 o'clock.
I think
Yeah, it's out, or they're in a different time zone and never think about it. And,
I think that was another thing that I learned from you, Hal, because you always gave me good advice. It was a lot easier on Kelly because our main cabin is across the driveway from the house, because it was on a smaller scale too, but also the fact that she did all the cooking and have everything ready over there, but then she could go back to the house and she had her home and the clients were somewhere else. And because like you said, if they're in your house, you don't want to be rude, but like after dinner, people want to talk and they want to shoot the breeze and they want to talk about what happened today. Well, if it's in your house, you feel like you got to kick them out. But if they're in a camp or a lodge across the driveway, you don't care if they stay up till midnight because they're not bothering you.
Right. You know what I used to do? Without saying a word. I never said a word. I just shut the lights off. I'd shut the lights off, and they'd be sitting there in the dark, and I'd be like, well, okay, we'll go down to our cabins now. I didn't have to say a word. I was like, I'm going to bed. Good night.
Yeah. Well, we made it 23 years there anyway.
Yeah. Good run.
We went over the norm, and it was time for a change. And sometimes you need that. You need a change.
Yeah. It was actually towards the end. It was the last probably even 5 years. It was like on autopilot. The business was good. Things rolled year after year, and there was still the work to do, obviously, but it was. The business part of it was good and all of that.
It's funny when in a seasonal business, like, we're all in, it's, you have different planning and mindsets for every season. Your whole life is season to season.
Yeah.
And I think it makes it go, it actually makes things go faster.
It goes fast.
Which is not good.
Yeah.
But it does.
The years like roll by like you got to be kidding me. It's all of a sudden you come spring and it's time to get things ready for summer, and the next thing you know, it's fall again. And you're like, what the hell? Where'd the time go, Yeah, it just rolls by. Because we only had really 2 months that weren't busy with business, with people being there. It was December, after deer season.
Right.
Until, snowmobile is usually kicked off around Christmas or right after, and then...
July, probably.
Oh, we were packed in July.
Packed in July. No,
really?
It was April.
April, yeah.
After the
December.
the snowmobiles would go till about the end of April. There'd be a few maybe come spring riding early.
You mean the end of March?
But then,
end of March, end of March.
And the end of March, yeah.
So in April, I did everything inside. If I wanted to do some new
spring
stuff,
cleaning.
They spring cleaned the girls, and I'd do things like pull out the refrigerators, clean the heaters. And then if I had any work to do, maintenance, I'd do that in April because people started coming by May to go fishing. And then I'd work outside and do everything, clean up the yard and do that kind of stuff. But, yeah, there weren't much downtime,
Mm-mm.
One of the things that I missed most about your old place, and the very first time that I ever came up there was, I remember you probably wanted to give Deb a break, but we ordered out. We had pizza. You ordered pizza somewhere, but I brought Kelly and the kids up.
Yeah.
And,
Still remember that.
And it was when you were feeding the deer, and my kids got the biggest kick out of, because you had even back then you had a bunch of deer coming.
Yeah.
But we went out to your bait shed and got a bunch of donuts, and the kids went down and dumped donuts out of a bait bucket, and the deer came in and were eating donuts. My kids got the biggest kick out of those deer with a jelly donut hanging out of their mouth.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I'd give them all my leftover. If I had any donuts left over and bread and stuff, I'd feed them that first and with some grain and get them going. But they liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was at that time you were feeding them down front because they were down by your sign, and then you switched over and started feeding them up by Bob's.
Yeah, there got to be so many of them, and then the snowmobilers would disturb them. They'd come rolling in just about when the deer were coming in the evening, and then one night a little fella got hit there in the front, and I said, "Well, that's the end of that." And I took it up in the back, and it was better. It was quiet.
By a snowmobile or a car?
By a car.
Okay.
On the road. Yeah.
Yeah, so because it was right by the road.
Yeah, that's when it started. That was late enough where it started. They had sold some lots down the road, and there was a few people had built and moved up there. There was getting to be a little more traffic on the road in the winter. But
I don't even know how many houses are down there now, but
there's quite a few.
My, there's a lot. Yeah.
Getting back to the deer feeding, I'm sure you kept track, but how many years did Big Boy, how many years did you feed him?
only 3.
Yep, I was
Only
just going to
3?
say 3 years.
Yeah, that I recognized him. Like when he came in, when he had a good rack, he came 3 years. He came until 2010 and never see him again. And he never got shot because
No, you'd have heard about it if somebody shot him.
Yeah. So I don't know what the heck happened to him, but
He died of old age.
could have. He was a big old guy, but
I think that deer, because I can remember we'd see him at that time. You had some other really good bucks coming, but if you saw him walk by, well, I think it was the one you called Crab Claw was a 200-pounder because somebody shot him, and he looked like he was 6 inches taller and a foot longer than him. That deer had to be at least 275 pounds. He was a big one.
That Crab Claw one was one of the smaller of the good racked bucks, and he weighed 196, and one of them a couple years into it, gal from town shot him. He was like 196, but I had 8 of them there one winter that were over 200, and I don't mean. And I what I had to compare with was the Big Boy on the big side, and then Crab Claw on the smaller side of the big ones, and he was right at 200. So the other ones I had were all noticeably bigger than him. So they were in the 225 to maybe even the 240 range, and this Big Boy was like noticeably bigger than them. I mean, taller and bigger, and all he had to do was look at them other deer, and they'd scatter. They didn't get near him.
And people had pictures somebody had a picture of him down by on Long Pond?
Yeah, Randy, he ended up down there to Petrins, and that's got to be nearly 10 miles, I think, out Long Pond. Let's see.
After there, at least 7 or 8 anyway.
Yeah, 8 anyway, 7 or 8 for sure. And then a couple guys said they saw him down the end of the road, down in that, basically the mining route over that country. So, yeah, them big ones travel. Yep. So, anyway, got any more stories you want to tell before we wrap it up, honey?
I can think of a lot of stories, but
Probably none of them true. But, yeah.
How about when I went on a hunting trip, shot my biggest buck, and you had to stay home.
Somebody had to work while you was playing around. See?
Yeah.
See? Wasn't all.
Now wait a minute
for
here.
How'd you do with the cooking?
Who was your client?
Chris and Mark.
Chris Dalty.
Chris Dalty and Mark. And she was gone.
I left to go on a hunting trip to New Brunswick.
It was the 3rd week because that was the last week in New Brunswick at the time. And we'd been going there for 3-4 years. And then I had booked Chris and Mark for that 3rd week. And
we didn't know him, yeah.
She went with the guys that we'd gone with, some friends. I don't know how
many. I
grew up with 4 or 5 went.
No, it was just Rick and Mike.
Just the 3 of you?
Mike Delara, yeah, who I grew up with in my hometown. I grew up with Mike.
They all went, and I had to manage the shot, but she shot her biggest buck that week anyway in New Brunswick.
Yeah.
That was a big hot spot back in the 80s because it was kind of like Ontario was in the 90s and the 2000s.
Yeah.
But I had a guy, I actually still got a couple of guns, but I bought a bunch of guns from a guy that lived down by Kittery Trading Post. He lived across the line in New Hampshire, but he was going to New Brunswick in the 80s, and he's the only person that I know.
Amazing.
He shot 2 Boone and Crockett bucks in the 80s in New Brunswick.
When we went, it wasn't where we hunted. Wasn't that? I think back on it, it wasn't like tons.
It wasn't
of
like
deer.
in Ontario.
No, it wasn't like
the area that we would go. We had this great area. It took a little bit to get into it because it was about an hour hike to get into this very swampy area, and there was no other hunters. And I saw the biggest deer I've ever seen in my life ever. I didn't obviously get it. It would have been nice. It was. I'm telling you, it was Boone Crockett. It was absolutely monstrous. It was huge.
How heavy was your buck that you shot over there, Deb?
The one I shot was 213.
Nice.
I shot the biggest deer of the season that year. And back, I'll tell you, it was different hunting for a woman back years ago. You would think, now they used to take a lot of hunters. What did they have? 30 at least. 30, maybe even a little bit more hunters. And every year that I went, I was the only woman. And there was one guy he was a repeat. And he says to the owners there, "Are you allowing a woman here?" Can you believe that? I mean, it's hard to believe this day and age, but he was definitely of an old school, and he complained. Because I was even sitting there having dinner. I didn't talk to him. He didn't have to talk to me. I mean, so on Wednesday morning, I shot my buck, and in that area that we hiked into, it was quite a hike to get in there, and we had it hung on the pole that night, and that guy, and I knew who he was because the owner had told me about him, and I would get dirty looks from this guy. He actually came up to me and he said, "I owe you an apology." Now, he didn't know the owner had told me about him, and he says, "I owe you a really big apology." And it was a good time for me to teach him that, don't judge a book by its cover. And, this are wonderful hunters. I mean, major good women hunters out there. And, just as good as the men and some better. And so he had a whole change of heart on gender in hunting. It isn't whether you're a male or a female. You put the work in, and
the bug bites everyone for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sir. I think it's definitely different now because you got like a lot of those TV shows.
Yes.
I don't watch them, but a lot of those TV shows.
Yeah.
The women contribute, and actually, like I remember when we went to Kittery Trading Post there one year, and Lee and Tiffany were there. Mm-hmm. They didn't come to see Lee; they came to see Tiffany.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but I remember when I was first, I was hunting before we got married, and I was very interested in it as a young person. My father was old school as well, and did not take me hunting. It was just sometimes it was just like that back then, and so I started on my own. I bought a shotgun. That was my first gun. Did it all on my own. And I was 16 at the time. And so I was already really wanted to hunt before I had even met him or even married him. Actually, I met him when I was 15. But
Don't be telling any of them stories.
You don't know those stories?
Hal's like, whoa, put the brakes on.
Yeah. So I wanted to hunt. So we did. Hal and Hal wanted me to be with him, and he was thrilled that he had a woman that enjoyed the hunting, wanted to go hunting, and it never bothered me that he wanted to go hunting. Never, ever once.
Yeah, I've always thought of Hal as kind of a Renaissance man. Anyway, he's kind of like that.
Yeah, Renaissance. Maybe born in the Renaissance.
Good one.
Renaissance.
The father of modern day female hunting, Hal Blood.
There's this. There's an in between Renaissance and Neanderthal. Maybe somewhere in between there.
That's right.
See, I try to get in a good plug for you every once in a while, Hal.
Appreciate it. I know you guys look out for me. So I guess the moral of this whole podcast is, guys, take your wives, move them north, kicking and screaming, doesn't matter, they'll go.
Give them a good kitchen.
Yeah, and enjoy your life.
And that's a wrap. Let's stop before somebody says anything.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, hon, and explaining your side of the story. And so we got anything to update this week? Oh, yes, I do. Hang right on here a minute. I might have to have Joe read this, but I was instructed to...
You act like my eyes are any better than yours. I think I can do it, though.
I got some glasses, Hal. You just looking for
yeah.
glasses?
Yeah.
There you go.
Can't even see him.
Old sure hands blood there.
Couldn't even see to get the glasses.
Oh, we had a little conference call last night about the events coming up and stuff. So, anyways, I was told to remind people about the hunt stock. It's in Westminster, Mass, August 12th to 14, and we got a discount on tickets for you here. So, okay, you can go. You can use a code BWB, 10% off. Here are sticking points. Wildwood Farm, once 3-day pass, 80, single day is 40, 10% off if you buy online. And you got to go to the hunt stock. There's a website for it, and if I read it, you'd never probably get it. It's something like eventbrite.com/huntstock tickets. I bet if you just Google Huntstock, you'll find them. Yeah. So go ahead and do that.
Or go on their Facebook page. I'm sure they have a link there.
For Huntstock. Anyway, that's about it.
No more, nothing new on the...
Don't ask me about guns.
Okay.
Yeah, I've tried to get a hold of them many times, and I don't know, maybe we're just going to
get a group of us and go down there?
Yeah. So
knock on the door?
Yeah. So that's about it.
Moose Lottery, that's coming up.
Moose Lottery are going to be coming up.
June 11th.
June 11th.
Start kicks off at 10 here in Jackman.
Yep. I guess my honey's, what she's getting at is she's going to have a booth there, too.
Yes. I'm going to have a booth there with my products.
She's been working hard making soap, so she's got all her
I got hunter soaps. I got every kind of hunter scent you can imagine, including dirt.
Cedar,
spruce, yeah. And I have stuff for the ladies,
she's got the
too.
women's smelly soaps, too.
Oh, yeah.
So they can get that, too.
And my famous pain cream.
And she's going to have, we're going to set her up, I think probably my fly tent right beside ours or something like that. So anyway, it's coming up quick. I got 2 clinics left, and me and Lee are headed off this afternoon to rescue the power wagon. I sunk in a puss pocket in the frost hole yesterday.
A puss pocket. I hadn't heard that one yet.
You haven't heard that one yet.
Oh, that's a good
puss pocket.
That's a good main term.
Yeah, it's a puss pocket.
You get right down there. And
we used to use that term differently.
What you do, Joe, is you squoze right down through that.
Squozed into the puss
that's
pocket.
a good word.
Oh, I was pulling it down the landing down there at the lake, and it was up at Penobscot there, my buddy's lodge there. But anyways, the boat had come free from the thing. The lake is up way, I think it's higher than last year because they closed the dam on it. And the boat was floated off. I had the plug out, and it was pushed up sideways towards the other boat. So I said, I'll just pull down there and hook onto it with the truck and back it up. Well, I went probably, if I'd have went a little bit more, but when it felt soft, I could feel it kind of sinking. I stopped, and I shouldn't have done that. I tried to back up, and when I did, because it's uphill, it's pretty steep down in there, because when I put it in reverse, it dug down a little deeper, and then I was the rocker panel right on the bunch of rocks and stuff there, and I knew I was dead X. I got
sunk.
Yeah, it's sunk. So
sunk.
Maybe we can use that picture for the thumbnail on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
I went to use the winch. I hadn't used it in a year, and there must be a bad wire connection or something. It doesn't even click. And I should have looked at it, and I didn't. I've been busy with the clinic, so I said, I'm looking right dead at a nice big fir tree. I could have hooked right on and pulled out.
It's just him and the dog.
Me and the dog, so I said, well.
And it's pouring rain.
I run over to the lodge. I said, I'll run over to the lodge, start the generator, because there's a phone system there and there's internet and stuff. So I'll just flick the generator on. I'll start that, and I'll make a call. I'll call Deb, tell her to come get me. Get the boat going, head over, get over there, go to start the generator. I pulled it slow, checked the gas and everything, pulled it slow, and it felt like it was like fetching a little bit. You know how it comes up like to the top, and it felt kind of dry, and I said, well, so I pulled it a little bit, and I could feel it didn't sound, it didn't feel like it was right, and it wasn't kicking either. And that thing usually starts over the winter, it'll usually start second pull, And I went to pull it again, and it froze right there. It's not like it froze. And I'm like, well, so now I ain't got no power. So I go in the shed, and there's a high lift jack. I grabbed a high lift, a spade shovel, and a pick bar. Went back over and worked on that. I got it up with a high lift finally, but my pinning I had kept sinking in the ground, and I got some rock stuffed under the front tire. I had it right up out of the hole, and then the high lift jack broke. I'd like 2 hours into the process, 2.5 hours into it.
So basically, when we go up there, everything's broke, and we're just
Mm-hmm.
gonna
So anyway, so I walked out yesterday afternoon. I started walking at 1.
I mean, it was buckets of
My
rain.
feet were soaked because I'd been in and out of the water and the mud, and all I had on was my kick around like hiking shoes that are all.
They weren't really hiking shoes.
They were
pretty
out.
wore out.
They're like old work shoes.
Yeah.
I had them on. My feet are soaked, and I walked 10 miles down the gravel roads to get out. And I was almost to the check-in point there at the Kelly Dam gate where you can make a call there. I was going to call her, and one of the guys that was guides on the Indian land for Spring Bear I see his truck there, and I didn't know it was him at first, and I went by, and a few minutes later I hear his truck coming, and he picked me up and gave me a ride back to the house. And
I watched him walk into the house. He looked like he was about 90 years old, and he looked like his clothes weighed about 20 pounds.
Soaked and wet, froze.
And
All
Sophie.
I had a sweatshirt over a T-shirt, cotton.
Both he and Sophie were literally drenched.
I could barely stand up getting out of the truck. My feet hurt so bad. I took my socks off, and my feet were so pruned. They hurt bad, both of them.
The glories of being a master name guide.
Yeah, and I was worried about him because I knew he was only going to be a half a day, and I said, and I wasn't thinking about him getting stuck, and I'm thinking I don't believe he would have broke down. I'm like, and then because then I knew he was going across to the lodge, so I was really nervous because the water's cold, and hey, things happen when you're by yourself, and he didn't have his inReach with him.
Yeah, I'd left my inReach in the remote camp.
That was my first question. Why
I left it in the
message?
Yep.
I left it in the remote camp. Didn't have that.
Didn't have that. So that is supposed to be with him at all times. But he doesn't.
She worries about me.
I'll take good care of him today, Deb. I'll make sure he gets back out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I feel better when somebody's with him, but the dog isn't much help. I mean, she's company, but
I think we can get her out pretty quickly because I can pull down in front, and it's all solid in front of the truck. It's just one side down in there.
That's what he said when he drove into it.
Yeah.
So I also want to mention before we get done here that the podcast audience got to meet Garnett last week.
Oh, yeah.
We got a lot of feedback on Garnett. Everyone loved him, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not going to be the last time he's going to be on. But if you haven't listened to that one yet, you want to go back and listen to it.
it's a
He's a funny guy.
He's a character,
yes,
man.
he is.
Great stories, great storyteller.
I've had a guy call me up, wants him to guide, asked if he'd guide him this fall.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he says, I've had Lyme disease, and he says, I'm getting over it, but I'm not 100%, he said, but I could use some of that trickery, I think.
But yeah, that was a lot of fun doing that too, and
Yeah.
everyone listening seemed to like it as well.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Well, till next week, support our sponsors and sign up for your notifications and all that good stuff, and good luck on the trail.
Hi, everyone. This is Big Woods Bucks team member Mark Sheeran. A lot of you know that I've been working with addicts and alcoholics now for the last 32 years. And one of the things that we just developed, which is very exciting, is the Freedom Model online program. And this program makes it so that you can learn the entire Freedom Model curriculum, all 470 pages of it, through pre-recorded video tutorials that myself and Michelle Dunbar, the other co-author of the Freedom Model, built for you. So you'll be able to learn the entire curriculum, how to get over an addiction without AA meetings, without rehab, without endless therapies, without recovery, and you can move on from this problem for good. If you want more information about this, go to online.thefreedommodel.org. That's online.thefreedommodel.org, or call 888-424-2626. And if you want that program for 50% off, use code BWB22. That's BWB22. So go to that address, hit the Enroll Now button, use that coupon code, and you'll have a program for the rest of your life. You can use it anytime you want. You'll get all updates. It's a one-time fee, and it's very affordable. And you'll get it for 50% off. BWB22. All right, everybody. Take care.
Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.